Thanks, Dan. I think we're all united in fighting what I believe is the greatest scam the world has ever seen. This claim that so-called greenhouse gases somehow warm the surface of Earth. They don't. In fact, they cool it. Water vapour makes the wetter regions cooler than the drier regions. I've confirmed that with a study of data from over 3 continents. I've confirmed it with correct physics. Now, yes, we also know that cosmic rays affect cloud cover, and that of course affects the temperature. And cosmic rays vary due to solar activity and maybe even magnetic fields from the planets. We do seem to see climate cycles, one of around about 1,000 years and a superimposed one of about 60 years. And both of these were going up until about 1998, but now the 60-year one's going down. And we haven't seen very much warming. But we can argue all we like with these AGW proponents about temperatures and things, and we won't get anywhere. It is true that the world has warmed a little, and it will probably start cooling maybe for 500 years, but it probably won't be noticeable for another 100 years anyway. We will get nowhere just arguing about temperatures. We have to attack the actual physics. I have sent Freedom of Information requests to the CSIRO, and they cannot produce correct physics that supports this hoax that greenhouse gases could warm the whole surface. Now, we only defeat ourselves if we talk about the sun warming the surface and the surface warming the air and these parcels of air somehow rising and cooling off as they expand. That's not how it happens. It's a simple physical fact that the sun's solar radiation directly to the surface cannot explain the global moon surface temperature. If you're on Venus and they've dropped probes to the surface of Venus, they've measured the solar radiation, and it's about 1/8 of what Earth receives. And yet Venus is 460 degrees. There's no way that direct solar radiation accounts for the temperatures on the base of the atmosphere at the surface of Venus. And it's not a case of the planet just warming or cooling off, rather, because it actually warms on the sun's side by about 5 degrees. How could the areas under the surface of Venus know when the sun is shining? It is due to the sun, but it is not due to radiation from the sun directly to the surface. It is due to a process that I believe I've been the first in the world to discover and explain in my paper in 2013. You'll find all my papers from my website there, whyitsnotco2.com, and my videos and things might help you understand it. This whole concept is simply wrong. Back in 1876, a brilliant physicist by the name of Joseph Bloch-Schmidt, who was the first to realistically estimate the size of air molecules, quite a feat back in those days. He understood what happened to those molecules, and he understood how gravity accelerates those molecules, just like it accelerates a stone when you drop it, makes them move faster when they go down, slows them up when they go up, and this leads to an automatic temperature gradient. It's something which forms at the molecular level. It's got nothing to do with rising parcels of gas. Nothing holds such a parcel together. Nothing warms it at the base. You have to explain how the energy gets into the surface of Earth. Now, climatologists realise that the sun doesn't heat the surface of the Earth on average over the whole thing. Yes, it will happen in certain areas like this when the sun's directly overhead, but it's only a very small portion of the Earth. Over the whole global sphere, the sun can only account for something like minus 40 degrees centigrade on average. That's a simple fact. Climatologists know that, and they thought, well, what else is doing it? And they just assumed that it was the back radiation. Twice as much back radiation from the atmosphere as there is solar radiation. They think that the back radiation triples the effect of the solar radiation. It doesn't do anything. It cannot transfer energy, thermal energy, from the cold atmosphere to the warmer surface. It simply gets what we call pseudo-scattered. Now, what does do it is this process of heat creep. And I'm going to try to explain that very briefly. You can read much more about it in my papers. Basically, if you imagine a level lake and some new rainwater falls in one part of the surface and not another, gravity will spread that new water out and the whole lake will rise. Now, because gravity makes the temperature gradient in the atmosphere, it's effectively a state of equilibrium, even though it's a temperature gradient, warmer at the base. When more energy is added the whole temperature graph rises to a new parallel position. Now all the sun can usually do, particularly on Venus for example, is warm the upper regions of the atmosphere, perhaps the tops of the clouds and things like that. And when it does that, that extra energy that's added in the cooler areas has to spread out, and it actually moves to warmer areas. Now that might seem strange because you learned in school that heat always goes from hot to cold. That happens in a horizontal plane, in the laboratory, yes. But the second law of thermodynamics, for those who know something about physics, is not about hot to cold. It's about a thing called entropy approaching a maximum. I'm not going to try to explain it, it's in my papers, but it's valid physics. I am absolutely 100% certain that this is correct. And this is how planets form at the surface. And if you want the best evidence in the solar system, look at a planet like Uranus. It's got a troposphere that's 350 kilometres high. It's spawned 20 times further from the Earth, therefore less than a 400th of the solar radiation. All the sun can do is heat something about minus 213 degrees in the upper atmosphere, but at the base of that troposphere, it is about 320K, that's hotter than the surface of Earth, at the base of that troposphere, all due to this effect of heat creep due to gravity forming that gradient, which more or less makes it like a slide that the heat can sort of flow over. That is a fact. I know it's extraordinary, but solar activity is actually supporting temperatures not only at the surface, even in the crust and the mantle. No planet will cool off unless the sun itself cools off or they move further away from the sun or something like that. That is a physical fact that is absolutely certainly proven using the laws of physics. It's a completely different paradigm from what we've heard before, but it is a fact. You need to attack the physics, you need to have a uniform attack on the physics. You're just scoring own goals if you talk about carbon dioxide doing a little bit of warming. You're just acknowledging implicitly that they're right about their physics, and they're not. So please, if you do nothing else, read my summary 6-page paper, the third paper, Comprehensive Refutation of the Radiation Forcing Greenhouse Hypothesis. Won't take you long to read. The best coverage is in my 43-minute video presentation, linked from the website. Over 100,000 people have been to my climate websites. You add to the numbers. Thanks for listening.